Thank you. Am I loud enough? They were giving me a mic. I said, I don't usually need one. It's a Saturday. You're still here listening to me, Swami. There must be something seriously wrong. By Saturday, even my family doesn't want to hear any more of me. As the nation wants to know, nobody wants to know, certainly not from you, they say. But thank you for that wonderful, warm reception. Now, first a caveat, okay? Give me the time limit. As you know, I have a propensity to continue speaking without conjunctive or hyphens for approximately 2 hours. And tell me there are advertisers in this room. My advertisers know because they call up saying, can our ad play in between if this guy takes a break? So, you know, as I was coming here, a lot of thoughts are coming to my mind. Because today you're asking me why I disrupted TV news. I had no such plan in my life, I assure you, when I started out with Times Now. In fact, let me tell you that I have been the most abject failure that you can have in the first 10 years of my career. In 2002, I seriously thought of quitting journalism altogether. I was fed up of Lutyens' Delhi. I hated the system. I don't like the way people co-opt each other, you know, everyone in each other's hair. A system of mutual cooperation, sycophancy and corruption that I witnessed. It made me so sad, I regretted ever being a journalist. I stand here before you today talking about why we wanted to disrupt TV news. Frankly, here's a man who wanted to quit journalism. I still remember, ladies and gentlemen, one day around 99, when I was a reporter in Delhi, and a man called Ramakant Khalap was the law minister of Goa. So I'm telling you this story so you understand how much things change. Outside gate number 4 of Parliament, in my youthful enthusiasm of a 24, 25-year-old reporter, I took my mic and I asked some questions like I asked now, but maybe, you know, 1/10 the impact. I just took my mic and I was very angry about one particular story, I don't remember which, and I went and told Mr. Khalap, and then Mr. Khalap was the law minister and he brushed me aside, and something I found very insulting in the way that he was talking to me, because I felt he at least needs to respond to me. I may be a young reporter, but I am not exactly a nobody. So I went and thrusting the mic, and he swatted me like a fly. And each time he pushed me back, there's something that I felt angry with. So I put the mic right inside his car, and I did not let him roll the windows of his car. And I asked him that question. I don't know what I did, but I went back, and when I reached my office, I was told that the Law Minister of India has complained against your insane and despicable conduct. And I said that, you know, there was a legitimate story that I was following. I don't think I've done anything wrong. I needed to get the Law Minister's version on the story. Sir, I'm fine. I don't think I've done anything wrong. And they said, no, this is not the way in which reporters should behave. You will go and apologize to the minister. And I want to tell you today, I went and apologized to the minister. I didn't go down on bended knee. But in those days, when there was no independence in this profession, when you're a young man, you have a rent to pay. You went, and I felt so frustrated that day. Because we don't join this profession to apologize to ministers. But that's exactly what I did. And this is one of the many instances which made me seriously consider quitting this profession. You're asking me how I disrupted TV news. My friend Partho, sitting here, we launched Times Now. And we know what a gigantic failure it was in the first few months. Today everybody looks at a big brand, but we were the biggest failure in news. There was one minister, we had proof that this particular minister had taken commissions for defense deals and was writing for companies in private capacity to push for big defense companies. And when my reporter went to ask that minister the question, saying, ma'am, I have proof that you have been fronting for defense companies, but you weren't even in the defense ministry. What on earth does this minister, who has something to do with something completely a non-economic ministry, what are you doing fronting for some big defense companies? You know, the minister held the mic and said, push it aside. Said, you guys, who are you? You're Times Now? Nobody watches you. You're not Times Now. You should call yourself Times When. It's not funny. When you sit there, right, and you are an editor trying to launch a new kind of journalism, and you are not resented, you are not mocked, you are seriously hated. You're seriously hated. That this whole system hates you. And when you start like that, they want to crush you like a fly before you can take wings. So please understand, this disruption that we speak about today is born out of the human necessity to change things. And I'm telling you, I will change things. And I have seen enough. I have seen enough hypocrites, enough corrupt people, enough sycophants, enough middlemen in my own profession. I have seen enough to believe that the kind of media that you were given, and I know there are students in this audience, aren't there? Are you there? The students are. I'm telling you today, the media that you were given before this form of journalism came up was the wrong media. That media was a lie. That media does not deserve to exist. If anything deserves to be crushed in our country, it is that co-opted media, not the media that we do today. This is the media for the new India. This is the media to disrupt. This media is not meant to disrupt only media. This media is meant to disrupt our society. This media is meant to disrupt our country. This media is meant to disrupt the way that the younger generation will lead their lives 20 years from now. And I want to tell you what I've done to disrupt the media. And by the way, Swami, tell me when to stop. You see, I have a battery charger with me because when I speak on the phone, I run out of battery often. You see, I want to give you 5 points on why disruption was needed. Journalism was not confrontational. Point number 1. It was submissive journalism. It was content with the status quo. Secondly, journalism was content with this whole idea of being neutral. This neutrality is a sham. Thirdly, journalism was only meant to be like the gazetteer of India, meant to give you information, not to create impact. Fourthly, journalism was significantly detached from people's issues. The day-to-day challenges that people face, the kind of stories we do when we talk about VVIP racism. Journalism missed the strong element of idealistic activism and dissent that today drives the profession with what we do. I disrupted the media in 7 ways. The first way is very simple, actually. Ask the toughest question to the most important person. That's it. When you are face to face with the most important person, ask yourself, which is that one question, if I ask this guy, that he may possibly never give me an interview again. But it's a pretty simple thing, actually. You know, when we go, I asked Rahul Gandhi also, by the way. I remember when I met Rahul Gandhi before the interview, we sat in a room. All these recording devices around me are making me nervous. But we sat in a room, I said, Rahul, there must be no red lines. And he said, yes, no red lines. I said, we talk about anything. He said, anything. That's how that interview happened. So we sit with it, it's Rahul Gandhi or Narendra Modi or Srinivasan or anyone. You basically ask yourself, which is the one question which that person really does not want to be asked? And do I have the courage to ask that question in as clear and simple a way as possible? Let me give you an example. Lalit Gate. If you followed Lalit Gate, what happened on the 14th of June 2015 that at 5 minutes past 9 we broke a story called Lalit Gate. Within 15 minutes of that, Sushma Swaraj had admitted that she had helped Lalit Modi. And for the next 20 days, we debated again and again and again about the story. We discussed Sushma Swaraj, then we discussed Vasundhara Raje Scindia, then we discussed the Vyapam scam, relentlessly for 20 days in power. We asked the toughest question to the persons who matter. When Sushma Swaraj was at a public event, we continued to follow her. We told 2 of our reporters to put 2 mics on both sides to ensure that she gives us an answer. Now, we don't really need to do this, but we believe that when Sushma Swaraj refuses to give you an answer, the body language itself tells you a different story. The similar experience I had with a person called Manmohan Singh. In 2011, Manmohan Singh did something he never does. He called for a press conference. Now, that's a headline in itself. No, because, no, seriously, I had never heard him speak. He speaks like a ventriloquist, you know. You can't make out what he's saying. But in any case, the most important thing was that he was never speaking anyway. The Prime Minister of India decides to speak. And so I was very excited. It was my first time. I was going to the Prime Minister's office. I don't like to go to all the Lutyens Delhi places, but I went because someone told me this is going to be a televised press conference. So I went for the press conference. And there were 14 editors around a big table. The Prime Minister came, lot of pageantry, and each one of us was allowed to ask a question. And for some reason, I became editor number 13. And I had about 5 bodyguards around me from the time I entered. It was a very hostile atmosphere because we had broken about 6 camps before that. You may have heard of some of them. We showed you CWG, remember 2G, Devas ISRO. Adarsh was turned into Kargil for profit. There was the Aircel Maxis scam, a succession of scams at that period. So when we went in, there were 13 editors, and all of them had this strange conversation with Manmohan Singh. Somebody said, Mr. Manmohan Singh, you know, this is how you should run the economy. This is what you should do about inflation. The Prime Minister nodded. It was a nice, convivial conversation. Not one of those people asked about the scam. This whole country outside on television was talking only and only about scams, but not one person was asking the Prime Minister of India about a scam. And I was tearing my hair apart thinking, where have I landed? Is this India? The editor number 11 even asked the Prime Minister, Pradhan Mantriji, what is your message for Sachin Tendulkar? Because Sachin Tendulkar had scored a century or something the day before. And I was completely zapped. I said, is this the media that I'm a part of? It embarrasses me. It truly embarrasses me. And that is the time when I asked that question, a clip of which was paid off here. And when I asked that question, a person who's the Prime Minister's media advisor behaved like his personal bouncer and tried to stop me from asking the questions and said, this is not an inquisition of the Prime Minister. You can't talk to the Prime Minister of India like that. Who says I can't talk to the Prime Minister of India like that? Where are those rules written? Why should I be submissive? Why should I be nice? Why should I ask the Prime Minister about the weather, give him advice on the economy, ask him questions about Sachin Tendulkar? Where is it written? Why can't I talk to the Prime Minister like he's just another citizen of India? You see, that is one basic question. So when I get an opportunity to do an interview nowadays, I ask myself, the fundamental first rule of disruption is very simple. Look at that person and ask himself, what is the question he doesn't want to be asked? Now, whether it is Amitabh Bachchan doesn't want to be asked about Salman Khan, or whether it is Rahul Gandhi, well, number of questions with Rahul Gandhi. There's always that one thing. And the second thing is that, you know, this rubbish that has been floated about neutrality. What is neutrality? Am I going to present a Wikipedia on television? I don't believe in it. I went to a Wikipedia conference and I said that. Who defines this neutrality? You see, this is a dated 17th century belief that journalism is not journalism. It is meant to be the role of what in the Mughal era was a town crier. You know, the king has said this, please come here. I'm not a town crier, and I never will be. The second point is basically behind this talk about neutrality. If you want to be seriously neutral, I believe you, I would respect you. But I suspect that behind this whole concept of neutrality is a tendency to play safe, to be guarded, you know, not to play the shot, almost as if you're going to hit the century and then let 100 balls go after that. Neutrality, ladies and gentlemen, and this is my view, is a weakness because it perpetuates a status quo. It doesn't change it. Neutrality is a weakness because it has no impact. And journalism is an exercise in absolute futility in the absence of impact. So let me ask you this. If I was to present all of you today in an obvious choice between right and wrong, when facts stare you in the face, when it is black and white, what will you choose to do? Will you sit somewhere in the middle, be a fence sitter, and then say, I am being neutral? To sit on a fence in the absence of any ambiguity on a matter of public interest, and I'm just going to give you a couple of examples on that, is basically nothing short of a crime itself. Now the example that I can tell you is the example of a person called Yaqub Memon. Right? Now my question to you is, can you be neutral? I can't. I can't be neutral about Yaqub Memon. Don't tell me to present both sides of the story with equal conviction. Because frankly, I'm an Indian, and I won't present both sides of the story with equal conviction. I will tell you which side of the conviction I believe in. I'll get people who have the contrary conviction, but I will not pretend not to have strong views on Yaqub Memon. Now, can you be neutral when a convicted terrorist is labeled innocent, and the person who has taken the lives of 257 people in the 1993 attacks in Mumbai That takes a backseat to the argument over the human rights of Yaqub Memon. Am I supposed to be neutral about that? Can you be neutral when a man who's labeled an architect of the worst terror attack that this country has ever seen is projected like a victim of, persecution by our bad Indian system? Can you be neutral when vote bank politics, and let's talk Turkey today, let's talk straight, when vote bank politics takes precedence over the law of the land, and every platform in our statute books is used and made available, and an aspersion is made to vitiate the atmosphere so that some politicians can get votes, and we know exactly what was happening in the case of Yaqub Memon. I can't, and can I tell you why I can't be neutral in the case of Yaqub Memon? Because I remember the story of two boys, one named Kareem in Worli, who went to get a cake on her mother's birthday, where the blast killed them both in the case of Yaqub Memon. I would think about that boy who went to get a cake and died in those blasts. I would think today, I'm not going to be a fake, a hypocrite. I'm going to think about Tushar Deshmukh, now 35 years old, who lost his mother in the blast and said hardly anything was left on her body. I'm not going to stand somewhere in the middle and say, you know what, I believe in being neutral. Because behind that veneer of neutrality, and I'm telling you, be neutral on politics, be neutral between political parties. But when there's a wrong happening before you, I think being quiet is not neutrality, it's weakness. Let me take another example. Can you be neutral when Mulayam Singh Yadav rides into Rampur on his Victorian buggy, worth millions, for his 75th birthday, cuts a 75-foot cake, and celebrates while 750 farmers commit suicide in 2013 in Uttar Pradesh? Am I supposed to be neutral on that? I'm sorry. If there are journalists who are neutral, may they be blessed for what they are doing. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe in that form of neutrality. I just don't. I find that form of neutrality insufferable. And it's not real, and to be honest, it's not truthful. The third thing that we do on disruption is that we like to take a mic and we like to doorstep politicians. Now, that act is actually a very democratic act. You just take a mic and you run as far as you can in a very athletic fashion behind the politician. Now, I'll tell you a joke. This started way back in 1995, and at that point of time, many of us who were in our, 20, 21 years old became reporters. And we used to enjoy running behind politicians. We were very unaware. One reporter once ran behind a person who came out of gate number 1 in Parliament. And, sir, what do you think about what happened in Parliament today? And the person gave a long answer and then started shuffling and moving towards his car. And then the reporter says, oh, by the way, sir, what's your full name? The person said, I'm Indrajit Gupta and I'm the Home Minister of India. Now, that was where we started. But things have changed. Nowadays, we do nice things. Like one of the best examples of doorstepping was when a person called A. Raja was doorstepped on the 10th of November 2010 over the 2G scam. It's compulsive viewing for anyone who wants to understand what disruption is. Please see that fantastic, about 75-second sequence of Raja getting out of his car and going into the airport. But then go back, slow-mo it, look at it again. Then go back, slow-mo it, and zoom, and look at Raja's face. That will tell you what disruption is. Raja doesn't like that. Because let me tell you, on the day, Prema Sridevi of Times Now stopped Raja. She was the only reporter who was stopping Raja like that. That time, in November of 2010, everybody in the system was telling us, you're messing around with the wrong kind of people. And they said to us, they're going to get after you. Stop your reporters from doing this. Don't pursue the story so hard. But how do you tell a 25-year-old reporter in whose eyes you see your own story 10 years back? How do you tell that reporter, restrain yourself? Don't ask the question. Don't upset the politician. Play safe. Should I tell them to play safe? Ladies and gentlemen, my question is to you. I have the option, one word from an editor. You know, Prema, don't hassle the guy. You don't need to tell him, don't hassle the guy. In other words, it may, don't bother him. Otherwise, you can tell Prema, go after the story. You're not getting Raja, catch him at the airport. Go there half an hour before. Catch him, ask the question. Block him if required. Say, please answer my question, Mr. Raja. You know something? I remember I started my career covering a case called the Jain Hawala case. Some of the older people in the audience would remember that happened in 1995. I just started my career as a reporter. And you know, in that Jain Hawala case, there's this place called Tis Hazari Courts in Delhi. Hot and grimy. It's a very, very difficult atmosphere. A number of politicians anyway in a bad mood are coming in and out. And you are putting your mic in front of each one of those guys who is in that scam and says, sir, aapko kaisa lag raha hai? How do you feel? The guy pushes you aside. Some policemen push you aside. Every day you're pushed aside. But behind your attempt to ask a question is a youthful idealism that it is your job to ask that question. Then suddenly you enter the same profession which you had prepared for, which you had studied for, which you had read about, which you had idolized. You'd read about the Watergate scam. You read about all the big stories. You'd read about Chitra Subramaniam. And you thought that when you will become a journalist, you will take that forward. But when you joined that profession, you were told, just keep quiet and shut up and don't take chances. Now, what am I doing? I'm simply saying the time has come to take chances. The time has come to not shut up. The time has come to speak. The time has come to doorstep. So within that wonderful thing called doorstepping, which is disruption number 3, and let me tell you, it is unique in India. Even in America, which they say has an evolved media system, I haven't seen that. There's something wonderful, isn't it? When Subodh Kant Sahai walks out of a press conference and everybody, the security guards tell the journalist, hut, hut, hut. And then the journalist pushes his mic and says, tell me, Subodh Kant Sahai ji, did you recommend a coal block for your brother? And the security person says, hut, hut, hut. And you say, tell me, Subodh Kant Sahai ji, did you recommend a coal block for your brother? Let me tell you, slow-mo that shot, all you need to look at Subodh Kant Sahai's face. And the honesty of the reporter asking that question. You don't need mediums to disrupt, ladies and gentlemen. I come from a worldview where we spend too much time in the media asking ourselves, will print be disrupted by TV? Or will TV be disrupted by digital? Or will digital tomorrow, 20 years from now, be disrupted by anything else? So why we waste our time talking about the medium? Talk about the message. What is the message that you will put? What will you put? Tomorrow, if I give you a medium so absolutely powerful that it will not enter your eyes but pierce through your heart, what is the message that you will send through that medium? That's my question. So when I push the envelope and when I say, go after the politician, doorstep them, that's fantastic. It's liberating for me. The fourth thing is, what is news and what is not news? This in itself is a massive, experience that I have had. What is news? Who decides what is news? Conventional wisdom is politics is first page news. Ministry of External Affairs is first page news. Fiscal deficit is first page news, but many things are not first page news. My question today is that what is news? Who decides its order of priority? Who should decide that? Should we be guided by elite groups in Lutyens, Delhi to decide what is news in this country? Absolutely not. Should a small story that happens in Cochin but has massive public significance not get national importance simply because it's happening in Cochin? Absolutely not. Who decides what is news? Let me give you a couple of examples which you will understand. My first example is the story which I also spoke about when we went to Goa, which is a story called Prince. Of Prince. A 6-year-old boy falls into an open manhole. In 2006, 5 months after I launched the channel, when the ratings were low, when we were doing so badly, I got a call from a news editor who's reading out the news list to me and says, by the way, there is one story, but we are an English channel, we're not covering it. I said, which is that story? And he says, there is a 6-year-old boy who's fallen into a manhole in Kurukshetra in Punjab, 5-year-old boy in Kurukshetra in Punjab, probably dead. Don't worry, boss, it's not a big story. And I remember that in 1996, when I was a reporter, there was a fantastic person, someone in the car today, Sunil, asked me, who's your idol? I said, I don't know idols, but there's one person I really loved and admired, and that person's name is Appan Menon. Do you know Appan Menon? From this wonderful state, a beautiful mind. Appan gave me the job as a reporter. And I remember one day in the news desk of NDTV, Appan said, Arnab, there's a story outside Tagore International School or some school in Delhi, in South Delhi, a child has fallen into a manhole. Will you go and cover the story? And I fought with Appan and I said, no, Appan, I will not follow the story because I think it's a metro story, it's a local story, and I have an Oxford degree and I should do better stories. I should cover politics and Ministry of External Affairs and all kinds of things. And 10 years later, I didn't cover the story. I don't even know whether the child survived, frankly. That guilt overhang remained with me, and 10 years later, when I heard the story of that boy who died, I didn't know his name. I was trying to come to terms with my own guilt. And I sent reporters to cover the story. Not only did I cover the story, I covered it like a madman. I split the screen. I put 2 OB vans, 5 reporters, whatever the limited resources Times Now had at that time. I marshaled all my strength and I said, if we don't care what happens, let us just go after that story. And slowly, like a trickle, the entire national media walked into Kurukshetra. The member of parliament came in. The army engineer-in-chief came in. The member of parliament, Naveen Jindal, came in. The chief minister sent his man. The district magistrate sent this man. And let me tell you, nobody would have given a damn at all if the child of a landless laborer earning 3,000 rupees a month would have died or survived by falling into a ditch. But the most magical moment in my entire journalistic career is when, after 3 days of national discussion, the whole country coming in with suggestions on how to save Prince, and when the child, through some pictures we were getting, would move a hand, and the whole country would say, oh, Prince is alive. And when Prince came out, eventually, I remember an army soldier picked Prince in his hands, and he covered him with cloth and was taking him out. And then after 15 minutes, and the whole office was like praying, we don't know how Prince is. After 15 minutes, somebody comes out and says, Prince is fine. And the whole office started crying. The whole office. Life teaches you journalism. What journalism will you teach in a journalism school? But you realize that day, when Prince came alive, the whole newsroom of Times Now was crying. You know why? Because for 4 days before that, Lutyens' Delhi media was castigating us for covering the story of that boy. And Lutyens' Delhi media, till today, when they say what is bad journalism, say what is sensationalism, they say the story of Prince. Remember, Prince is sensationalism. I'm asking you today, a 6-year-old boy on his birthday comes out alive after a heroic struggle because the media catapulted his case to the national limelight. Is that sensationalism? Is that bad journalism? Tell me, gentlemen. Tell me, is it bad? If it is bad, I already pleaded in Goa that I am guilty of the worst form of journalism. I think it is the most impactful journalism. It teaches you that journalism has no established order. There is no established story. There is nothing which is right and wrong. Whatever impacts, whatever touches my heart, whatever makes a difference to the maximum number of people, that is journalism. That is the beauty of journalism. Disrupting journalism only means open up. Open up your minds to what can be news, and open up your minds to whatever can be important or not important. That's point number 4. Point number 5 is the ability to be a pinprick in society for a sustained period of time. Now, some of you are laughing at that. I don't only mean politicians who come on my show, but pinprick in society for a sustained period of time simply means that you've got to pick up a story and run after it again and again and again. For example, the case of VVIP racism. The case of VVIP racism can be established with one simple example. Since February this year till now, we've run a huge campaign called a campaign against VVIP racism. What is this campaign? The center point of the campaign is that there are very self-important people in India who consider themselves VVIPs, who want special privileges, want to walk out of line, behave in a different way, etc., etc. I once traveled recently when we were in the middle of this campaign from Goa on an international flight, and there was a politician from Maharashtra, very important, who was flying with me. And when you get off at the international airport in Bombay, you have to get into a line, even if you are flying domestic to immigration. This person was standing right in front of me on the line. It was quite a miracle that he was standing in the line. But what was beautiful was that the other side of the line at the counter, there were 6 or 7 of his chamchas saying, "Sir, please come. Why are you standing in the line?" And that person, shh. And I wanted to do this. Fantastic. I said, wow. I wanted to exult. And I laughed my way off on the way back. I felt so. Would you feel happy? And then, you're burning inside. I have been thrown aside so many times. My father, so many times, I stand with my father at Guwahati airport, and some self-important politician, hut, and I want to tell him, who the hell are you? My 75-year-old father has been in the army. How dare you treat him like that? But these politicians, they don't give a damn. Have you experienced that ever? I've experienced it so many times. So many times. So when I'm doing this, that guy is aware that this pinprick in society exists. Now, this pinprick in society is very important because things are not laughing matter. Let me tell you one story which moved me a lot. You all know there are potholes on roads. Now, it's a very small story. Channels doing potholes on road stories will be considered to be mad 7 years back. But in August, there was this pothole. There is a child called Likith Gowda and his mother called Sunita. It's a Sunday morning, and Likith Gowda and his mother Sunita are going for lunch to a relative's place. Okay? She's driving a scooter. There is a pothole on the road, so big that she loses control over her scooter. The child is sitting behind her. Likith is thrown off into the road. A bus comes fast from behind, fails to apply brakes, crushes the boy on the spot. Not the first, the third incident at that same spot. Now my point is, the story of Likith Gowda cannot be put somewhere as the sixth story, which is carried for 30 seconds for denominational symbolic value. You see, you got to take that story down to the chief minister, who said in that video, did you see? People have to bear it, he said. Did you see his words in the video? So why do you stop ambulances, sir? Why did one policeman who actually took those barricades and moved them aside because the ambulance was passing, why was he beaten up by another policeman? Oh, people have to bear it. Did Likith Gowda have to bear it to a point where he was crushed under a bus? And so the problem is that if I do the story one day, and I don't do the story another day, and I don't build a bigger theme of it, trust me, our society is completely status quo. It will live with that, and it will move with that. Uma Bharti's scene you saw there, she actually walked away scot-free. She was not getting on a train. She told somebody, "Zara chain khicho." So they pulled the chain, the whole train stopped. This happened on the Gondwana Express, Jabalpur to New Delhi. In any other country do you hear that because a minister was reaching late, somebody pulled a chain and the whole, at the station in the middle of the night, the train was kept waiting so that Uma Bharti arrives on time. You saw the story of Kiran Rijiju recently, and the story of Devendra Fadnavis who threw people out of aircrafts. Now, these are fundamental stories. My view is, you've got to be like a pinprick in society constantly, and you've got to believe that overall you're making a bigger change. I believe of all the stories, bigger than Lalit Gate, bigger than CWG scam, is the campaign against VVIP racism. Disruption number 6 is simply the case of persistence and tenacity. The ability to stay there again and again and again and not lose faith in yourself. 2010 was a very, very difficult year for me because we broke a story called the Commonwealth Games scam. In some places before, I have shared the story of how the CWG scam was exposed because we got a piece of paper which had a 200,000 pound scam called the Commonwealth Games scam. It was a small auditing error when Suresh Kalmadi and company went to organize the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games in London. We put out that story and we called it the CWG scam, but it was actually a few lakhs. But we hyped the name of the story and we called it CWG scam. You see, as they say, what's in a name? If you want to catch a politician, it's all in a name. Why was Ashok Chavan, even today Ashok Chavan does not know why he resigned as Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Can I tell you why? One day he called me at 8:35 p.m. and he said to me, "Mr. Goswami, ye story band kijiye." That's the way they used to talk 5 years back. So I said, "Ye story band nahi ho sakti." And I told him it's like a teer. Jo ek bar, once you shoot the teer out of your bow, which is you shoot the arrow, it's not going to come back. I told him that, "Sir, I can give you a nicer option. There is an OB van outside your house. I pull the cord. You can go live at 9 o'clock and give your side of the story." For some reason, he never took up that option. But the fact of the matter is, Ashok Chavan resigned because we changed the name of the story. The story was called the environmental clearances over a building. We called the story Kargil for profit. Because at the root of the story was the fact that somebody was using the name of Kargil to build multi-crore flats for themselves. The point is, as direct as you can, go to the nub of the story. Don't be subtle. End up where the end of the chase will get you. Be direct with the politician or with anyone in power, they'll get the message. Try to be squeamish, try to be indirect, nobody's even going to look at you. Trust me. The tenacity simply comes from the fact, now let me tell you about the CWG scam. We put out the story called the CWG scam, and Suresh Kalmadi held a press conference the next day. We were sitting in our office in Mumbai, and we saw Suresh Kalmadi on a screen getting increasingly volatile and angry as he spoke. And then he said, "We are going to sue Times Now for defamation We're going to take them to court, etc. Each time any of my reporters tried to say something, he said, please keep quiet. This is not Times Now. This is my press conference. And I was really zapped because I asked myself, why is Suresh Kalmadi reacting like this? Why is he getting so violent about it? What have we done? It's a small story. And someone told us, look at this guy's body language. He seems to be nervous about hiding something. We asked ourselves then, if he's taken a 50% profit margin or a cut in a 200,000 pound expense, that means if the man has 70,000 crores to spend, he's approximately taking a 35,000 cut. So we said, do we approximate the story? What is he nervous about? Then someone told us, what he is nervous about is the fact that you've called it the CWG scam. Because the man is about to organize the Commonwealth Games next year, and he's sitting on a budget of 150,000 crores, which means he feels that his lie has been caught. He believes that this is the first of many stories that we are going to do. But I told my colleague, but we have no more stories to do. We have no scam. He says, yes, but Suresh Kalmadi doesn't know that. I said, now what on earth are we going to do? He expects us to expose him. It's a strange situation. I have never had a situation where a politician is expecting us to expose him. You see, Sushma's was different. We exposed her. But Kalmadi was expecting us to expose him tomorrow and day after. And we're sitting in Mumbai saying the weight of expectations is so much, but we have nothing to expose against this guy. What are we going to do? They said, well, let's try and expose him. That is when we started uncovering this story. Poor Mr. Kalmadi. So, that was 30th of July 2010. When we exposed the story, everyone told us that he's going to get you. You're not going to be able to do this job. These guys are bad guys. And every day, and the next day, somebody else went to Suresh Kalmadi and said, these people are very bad people. You give us an exclusive interview. So the next day, we had on another rival channel a strip which say, Suresh Kalmadi exposes all. Coming up at 8 p.m. on another channel. I was extremely nervous because I thought he's now caught the fact that we don't have anything against him. So another anchor, I won't take his name, says, Mr. Kalmadi, all these allegations that are there against you, is there any truth in any of them? And he says, absolutely not. And the breaking news goes, Kalmadi says all lies. And that went on for 8 months. I sometimes don't know what to think of my own profession. I want to hide my face somewhere and say, what are you doing in this profession called journalism? 25th of April 2011, I was in the gym when someone called me and said, Suresh Kalmadi is arrested. And I really wanted to give it back that day. Because I know that from 30th July 2010 to April 25th, 2011, how difficult and lonely the journey was. That's why I told Arvind Kejriwal. One day suddenly Kejriwal told me, you don't cover me anymore, you don't do this, you don't do that. And I said, but you're a politician now, anyway you crib too much. But trust me, Kalmadi was raided on December 24th, 2010. The dates leap out of my mind. And I remember December 24th, 2010, people said, Arnab, you're going to have 1 month more, boss. 1 month, this guy is going to get you. Taking on Kalmadi means taking on the establishment. On April 24, 2011, when I heard that Kalmadi had been arrested, I genuinely wanted to give it back, not just to all those naysayers, but to people in my own profession, the people who had been co-opted, the people who didn't ask questions, the people in Lutyens, Delhi, the people who belong, the people who want to be part of that system. I want to tell them today, who tells you things won't change in this country? I believe things will change. And out of all this story of disruption, I can theorize to you, but comes a central point and a belief that you wake up every day believing that you can make a difference. It's not about Kalmadi. It's about changing the law that tells you that national icons should not be questioned, that politicians should not be questioned, that you should play safe, that you should leave people untouchable, that you should be not asking these tough questions, that you'll be told there are ways and things in which things have been done, and you too should do those things in the same way. I just don't believe in doing things the same way. Because if I'm meant to do the things the same way, I have no connect with my audience. I don't even connect to my youth audience and my older audience. And sometimes people call me nowadays to meet them in hospital. I have met people in hospital who are terminally ill and they hold my hand. the 90-year-old, and they say, we love what you're doing because we think things can change. I've met 8-year-old boys and girls in airports who come to me with their mothers and say, Uncle, you asked this question yesterday, we really liked it. Because beyond all of this, see, TV is a transparent medium, ladies and gentlemen. It's just, if you lie, you'll be seen. If you speak the truth, you'll be heard. If you have conviction, you'll be watched. That's all that matters. The last point on disruption is very simple. You need to stop creating holy cows in our country. There are too many holy cows. Revered social figures. Don't touch them. Celebrities, icons, people, legends. Their star power is too intimidating to ask tough questions. The cricketers who have 1% attendance in Parliament, you should not ask them questions. Who says you shouldn't ask them questions? Who says that? Which law says they shouldn't be asked questions? Salman Khan, don't ask him questions. The film fraternity in India will operate like a clique at a time when sympathy should have gone to the victims of Salman Khan, to Nurullah Mehboob Sharif, who died, Kaleem Mohammed Pathan, Munna Malai Khan, Abdullah Rauf Sheikh and Muslim Sheikh. It seemed like our great Bollywood film industry was totally united in support for Salman Khan. We saw the film fraternity come together again and again to defend Sanjay Dutt after he was caught in possession of an illegal arms case in the 1993 blast. We've turned this whole game into a big, gigantic circus where the celebrities get away with whatever they want. Now, my question is, why should they get away with whatever they want? Is there anything wrong with that? I hear a silence in the audience. You believe they should get away with what they want? No. Then say so, ladies and gentlemen. Say so. Because we've been too silent for too long. The logic is very simple. Irreverence has to become a basic and sole rule that the profession of journalism adheres to. You become a journalist because you are meant to be irreverent, not meant to be obsequious. You need to be irreverent. A lack of respect for people or things that are generally taken seriously. That is the definition of irreverence. In our country, the sole law and the seventh law of journalism is very simple. That law comes from my heart, and I share it with you today. Is simply the law of irreverence. Be as irreverent as possible, because you will never realize what is right and what is wrong without it. As Martin Luther King had said, and I am a great believer in that great man, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability. Change comes through continuous struggle. So we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. A man cannot ride you unless your back is bent. Politicians, people in power, the status quo has ridden us, ladies and gentlemen. And it has ridden the media because the back of the media has been bent. It is rightly said that we told you to bend, you chose to crawl. What we are simply saying is we are gaining our supine strength once again. And I seek your support in my attempts to do that. You can hate me, you can criticize me, you can throw stones at the television. Actually, stones aren't a good idea, something else. But please watch and believe what we do. Because I have some questions for you today. But before I ask those questions, I want to share a small story that made a great impact in my life. You see, I made so many mistakes and I was desperate for ratings when this whole business started. Especially when I was losing, I genuinely felt I need to do something drastic to get attention. At that time, this same person called Sanjay Dutt, and his story links up to my own experience once. Sanjay Dutt was going once again from Arthur Road jail to some other jail in Pune and back. I mean, he likes going between these places very often. When he's not on parole, that is. 75% of the time, the man is on parole. It's amazing. So Sanjay Dutt was going there, and we had put all our cameras behind Sanjay Dutt, and we were covering him. Short of drones, we did everything. We put some cameras on bikes and cameras on cars, and the camera person called us shot. Boss, what a shot I've got. I've got a side profile of Sanjay Dutt. Somebody says, I've got a shot, exclusive shot of him waving. I've got a shot of him behind the car. And somebody said, I've got an exclusive soundbite of Sanjay Dutt. What did Sanjay Dutt tell you? He said, Sanjay Dutt told us that I have full faith in the law. I said, wonderful, wonderful. We needed Sanjay Dutt to tell us that. So this whole story is going on, and Sanjay Dutt is driving the country wild. And us wild as well. I get a phone call in my room. And this phone call comes from a man who says, "That Arnab?" I said, "Yes. I'm calling from Bangalore. I followed your career. I have watched you. But I wanted to tell you from today, I will never watch you again. And I will make sure that anyone I know will not watch you again." And I was very zapped. And I said, "Sir, but who are you?" This person says to me that my name is so-and-so. And the reason I'm never going to watch you again is because a friend of mine died. And my friend's name was Colonel Vasant Venugopal. He was 42 years old. He was from the Maratha Light Infantry. And he died. He died fighting terrorists in Kupwara in hand-to-hand combat. He was going to take premature retirement 2 weeks from then. And he died, and he said, "You know, you guys are all covering Sanjay Dutt. But you haven't spent 1 second even mentioning Colonel Vasant Venugopal, who's the senior-most veteran, colonel, officer, leading from the front. His cremation has taken place in Bangalore. You didn't even send a camera. Probably you don't even know." So I said that, "Sir, I'm very, very shocked at what you've told me. I'm sorry." And I went back and I said, "I'll cover." I got the pictures from Doordarshan. We carried the story on our channel. And that night, I had decided to call this person on my program because I also wanted to get rid of my own guilty conscience. The person came. The show was beginning. At 9:02, I asked my producer, "Do we have our first guest ready?" Because we decided not to lead with Sanjay Dutt that day, but the story of Colonel Vasant Venugopal. And my producer says that she's ready. I said, "How is she?" Because his friend called me, and it was a gentleman. He said, "No, his wife has decided to come on the program." And his wife came. Her name is Subhashini Vasant. Amazing lady. And I didn't know what to ask her. What do you ask someone who's cremated her husband 5 years back? What do you ask them? You ask yourself why she came. You ask yourself what she's got to say. You ask yourself how stupid you are. You ask yourself that sitting in your studio in Lower Parel in Mumbai, which galaxy or Milky Way do you belong to that you don't know what's happening in your own country? And more than that, you ask yourself, how am I going to make amends for the rest of my career? And you ask yourself how selfish you have become. And I had become incredibly selfish, like many other television professionals. She spoke for 7 minutes or 10 minutes. Next day, the army chief called me and said, "Can I get her number?" She created waves that day. And more than anything else, she silenced me completely. It is that experience which made me realize that there is something more, there is something wrong that I must be doing in my career, and some reason why this experience has come to my life. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm just asking you this today. I have shared some examples from my own life and my own career. I believe that from the mistakes that we make and the experience that we have, we go on to do new things. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. Believe me. We are doing new things in Indian media. I can't speak for everyone, but I can tell you, we're doing new things. Come see my newsroom. See the 20-year-old sub-editor. Meet the 28-year-old news editor. See the glint in their eyes. Feel the optimism. Feel the anger. When I am being attacked, by these guys in the studio, my whole office sometimes, they come inside and say, "Boss, don't take it lying down." Some people ask me, "Why don't you take it lying down?" Because I'm the voice of my team, and my team believes that go and give it back to them if you have nothing to hide. And I tell them that in my life, I have one rule. In my life, I will not take a safety pin from anyone who can oblige me and have an IOU on me later. And I have not done that. If I had done that, or any team member had done that, we would not be able to do what we are doing. We are as honest as possible. We are working very hard. And we are, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking it on the chin. Remember this, we are taking it on the chin. Not the people who lecture us about good journalism sitting in Greater Kailash. We are taking it on the chin. I know what risks we take. We don't go for pleasant experiences. We do not, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, we don't criticize Manmohan Singh after he's out of power. We don't write a book castigating him 6 days before he's about to retire. We don't break Lalit Gate at the end of the tenure of this government. We break it because we believe it whenever it needs to be broken. We take it on the chin because we question these people. And I genuinely want your support. Because I have 5 questions, 6 questions to ask you. Can I ask you questions? Okay. So my first question to you is, do you want a media that asks tough questions or a media that chooses to give a platform to those who ought to be questioned? My second question to you is, do you want a media to be confrontational or do you want your media to be docile and subdued? Do you want your media to take a stand on the right side of the truth or be so-called neutral and perpetuate the status quo? Do you want the media to be fearless and unrelenting in the pursuit of the truth, or compromising and pliant as it has been in the past? And do you want the media to be loud if required to have an impact? Because if I was quiet, nobody would listen to me. Do you want your media to have an impact and be loud, or be worthlessly sober and willing to negotiate? I will not negotiate, because I'm not scared anymore. And do you want the media to put people first, or be laid back and simply say, I'm doing good journalism? The choice is yours, ladies and gentlemen. The choice is absolutely clear. The choice is between wanting change or preferring stagnation. It is a choice between seeking an impact, ladies and gentlemen, or preferring that choice to go. That choice is yours to make. The media you get is the media you want. Thank you very much.